The International Court of Justice has ordered Israel to halt the Rafah offensive in a landmark ruling.
For more on this and what the decision means, we're joined by barrister and former prosecution trial lawyer at the International Criminal Court, Regina Weiss in Hobart. Thank you very much for the early call here, Regina. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Can you take me through exactly what the court has ruled and what it's ordered?
Sure, of course. Well, it's been a very busy week for The Hague, I have to say, and it's quite encouraging to see the international community using the tools that were created at the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice. So you recall the January 26 ruling for provisional measures, and they were broad. It was landmark, but they were broader rulings. They were the provisional measures to cease genocidal acts, provide humanitarian supplies, and so forth. The ruling yesterday is far more stringent and it's far stronger. So the court ordered 11 judges to 2, including our own Hilary Charlesworth, that that Israel must stop the military offensive in Rafah. So it's been specific. It says to open the Rafah crossing and let the aid in, and then to also allow the UN fact-finding mission in. So the language we see in that decision is far stronger than we've seen before.
So what powers does the ICJ have to enforce these orders? And I ask this question to say, is this actually going to make any difference on the ground with Israel's path and its planned path, particularly when you hear from the response from certain people in the Israeli government overnight?
Yes, well, in theory, it's a legally binding order and it must be complied with. I think we can see already that it's not being complied with, just like the January 26 order hadn't been complied with. I understand there's some reports of air raids going in already. Now there's hundreds of thousands of people in danger in that area. So I hear what you say. It's supposed to be a binding order, but whether or not it will be complied with is another story in itself.
If anything, do you think it will, in lieu of anything actually happening materially on the ground, will it make Israel more isolated from the region and indeed the West?
Yeah, well, yes, one would hope so, and that would be because the states, member states to the UN and to the Genocide Convention, have now obligations on themselves. It intensifies the pressure on the West not to arm Israel. It intensifies the pressure on the West to actually bring some sort of to assist with this military operation being ceased. It's enough is enough, I think, is what this decision is telling us.
What evidence would the judges have been using and relying on to make this call?
It's a far different threshold. So at the ICC, it's a criminal threshold, whereas here it's not. There were submissions given by the parties. There would have been open source evidence, just like you're showing today. There's obviously evidence of aid workers and people on the ground. The UN still have people on the ground who are reporting back. Now, we have to remember that the ICJ is a UN institution and it can rely on witnesses and material that's being collected by its agency. So, the evidence really is overwhelming, and particularly the urgency now because the offensive is in Rafah, and there are people sitting there who are in terrible danger of losing their lives.
Absolutely. We all know the humanitarian crisis playing out. South Africa has brought this case. Where to now? Do you expect there might be other cases brought?
Well, that could very well be, or there's certainly overwhelming support now to stop. What could happen is this could come before the UN Security Council. Again, we have the issue of the veto power by the US. This may add pressure to not veto or perhaps even vote in support of this specific situation that Rafah is spared, because I know there's been rhetoric coming out of the US about this specific location in Gaza where there really is this humanitarian catastrophe. It's a humanitarian crisis, so that could be the next step.